We don't get playoff baseball here, so we got to talk to guys like you.
Yeah, the last time I was up there, there was a pretty famous home run hit, and they were singing in the streets in Toronto.
Dodgers clinched the National League West this week, and they do it fittingly on another victory for Clayton Kershaw. What a season he's had, up to 21. Can you put into perspective what we've seen from the lefty this year? And I know everybody from the previous generation says Sandy Koufax was the best they'd ever seen. Is there a comparable to be made here?
I really don't think so, and I'm not trying to dodge the issue at all. I certainly agree they're both extremely talented left-handers, but the biggest difference between the two teams is the schedule. When Sandy was at his peak in the 60s, pitchers worked every fourth day, and we really didn't have pitchers who were called in to hold and pitchers who were called in to save. Starting pitchers went as long as they could. So, for instance, when Sandy won 27 games one year, he turned in 27 complete games. Well, you're not going to see that. In fact, I don't think you'd find 27 complete games on any pitching staff in the major leagues today. So it's unfair, really, because it is apples and oranges. Now, that does not take anything away from Clayton, who has 6 complete games to go along with his 21 victories. But even 20 years ago, 1986, back in there, Fernando Valenzuela won 21 games and completed 20. So you don't really want to get into that. All I know is that during his time with the Dodgers now, Clayton Kershaw is the best pitcher, I believe, in the National League. I can't mention the American because I just have no judgment over there. But he is not only a fine pitcher, he is, as others have said, he's a baseball player. And the other night, when he pitched the Dodgers to the big victory, he made an incredible defensive play, dropping to his knee with his back to home plate and backhanding a shot up the middle. And then later on, he tripled to drive in what at that time was the tying run. So he's a remarkable all-around player and deserves all the plaudits that he gets.
Vin Scully is our guest on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Now, the Dodgers are back in the playoffs. They've had a real run at it the last few years, a big cash injection. Do you still get charged up? The idea of calling a World Series game, of calling the big game on a big night. You'll start there Friday night, of course, Dodgers and Cardinals. Do you still get excited about it?
I honestly do. I won't get that real feeling until I'm just about ready to go on the air. The team takes the field, the crowd roars, the anthem's already been played, and you'd have to be a block of wood not to have the adrenaline perk you up. So, yes, I still feel that. As far as the team is concerned, their chances are very good based upon 3 starting pitchers. If Clayton Kershaw, Zach Greinke, and Hyun-Jin Ryu are all healthy in a short series, they will be very difficult to beat. But as you know, and every baseball fan knows, you don't win on paper, you don't win with a pencil, you win by playing, and that's what makes it so wonderful to observe.
Speaking of playoffs, and I know everybody has their favorite moment, and this might be yours, it might not be yours, but if you mention Dodgers and playoffs, one moment I think comes to mind for a lot of people, and that is Kirk Gibson in '88. And I wonder, you called that game. I wonder what's going through your mind as you see a hobbling veteran come to the plate to pinch hit in Game 1.
Well, a lot of people have asked me where I would categorize that home run, and after a lot of times being asked, I finally decided it was without a doubt the most theatrical home run I've ever seen. First of all, I was on the air doing the game on television for NBC, and when we came out of commercial going to the bottom of the 9th inning, I said on the air, if you were here, you would be looking for Kirk Gibson. And the camera then did a long pan of the Dodger dugout, and I said, obviously he's not here, so obviously he will not play tonight. I didn't realize that effect would have on Kirk sitting in the Dodger clubhouse. It touched a nerve and all of a sudden he jumped off the table where he had two big bags of ice on each leg. And he hollered to the clubhouse boy, "Go down and tell Tommy I'll be right there." Well, I'm not knowing any of this. Meanwhile, the inning builds as there's a walk, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, who do I see hobbling using a bat as a cane coming up the steps of the dugout but Kirk Gibson? And I remember I just said, "Well, look who's here." And, of course, the crowd knew who it was, and they went wild. And then when he finally hobbled up to the plate, I said a little prayer, not for him to hit a home run, but just for him not to strike out. And I remember saying all year long, the team looked to him during a challenge, and all year long, he met the challenge. And then I just thought to myself, please let him meet the challenge tonight. Well, if you remember those dramatic moments, heck, over 25 years ago, he hit a couple of little squirrely ground balls that just did go foul. Had they stayed fair, he never would have reached first base. So all of a sudden, he did the one thing that no one really thought would happen. He hit the home run to right field, and it was, without a doubt, all things considered, he wasn't in the dugout suddenly making a ninth-inning hobbling appearance, and then to hit the home run. That, to me, is the most theatrical home run I've ever seen.
It's incredible, and it never ceases to amaze me because I don't think there's another sport that is as comically induced as this one, where you get those moments. And you mentioned, being here for Joe Carter in '93, and it seemed like fate. And Derek Jeter the other night. Of course, that happens in baseball, and there's nothing like it.
No, indeed. It sounds, if you wanted to draw the analogy with football, it would be some, last-second touchdown pass. Maybe the game that I did, the last football game I did, which was San Francisco versus Dallas in 1982. And in San Francisco, they talked to that game in very reverent tones as the catch. And that was the Joe Montana touchdown pass to Dwight Smith in the last, Dwight Clark.
Yeah, of course,
in the last 30, 40 seconds. So, every now and then they have it, but it just seems like Major League Baseball has it all the time.
Vin Scully, our guest in his 65th season calling Dodger baseball, will be back for his 66th next year. Very happy to have him on Brady and Walker, Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Another key to the Dodgers' postseason hopes will be, of course, Yasiel Puig. I wonder if you've, in all your years, if you've seen a player quite like this guy in terms of the five-tool, amazing skill set, at times has been his own worst enemy, and has captivated a country, really a continent.
Yeah, I don't mean to quote myself, but the first time I saw him play in one weekend, he exhibited all 5 points as a hitter and as an outfielder and as a runner. And he also ran with reckless abandon, and I put the nickname the Wild Horse on him. And I really thought of him as this great big stallion racing across a meadow, and his meadow is here at Dodger Stadium. He's an electrifying player. He's born for headlines. I was not the least bit surprised when he didn't hit a home run in the All-Star home run contest. That would have made far more headlines than if he had hit a bunch. And then during the All-Star game himself, I was not the least bit surprised when he struck out 3 times. This is a kid who's just born to be on the front page.
You were with the Dodgers when they came from Brooklyn in 1957, or after the '57 season, and it fascinates me because moving from coast to coast and that market to this market, do you remember exactly what the temperature was? What was different about the atmosphere and the crowd and just the business of baseball in the late '50s?
Well, Gertrude Stein wrote a great line about Oakland. She said there's no there. And when we came out to California, Southern California, Los Angeles is like 480 square miles. And I don't think there was a there. But when the Dodgers moved here, started in the Coliseum, opened up this magnificent stadium in 1962, suddenly there was a there. And that, to me, is one of the biggest things that's happened to the city It brought the city together, and really, they're having a wonderful time with the ball club.
It's been a pleasure, and no playoff baseball here, of course, for Jays fans, but they love baseball the same, and so everyone's really excited to hear what you have to say. Thanks a lot, Vin.
My very pleasure. Thank you.